Okay, now this episode marks the third appearance of the infamous and polarizing writer named Nick Confalone. Or maybe it's pronounced Confalone, I don't know. Now on my card, he bombed hard with Party Poop, then had a bit of a comeback with Hearthbreakers. So this is it, Nick, your rubber match. And from a critic first and a fan second, here's the second opinion.
Non ti fermare, non ti fermare, non ti fermare.
Now this is one of the more complex topics they could have given him, covering both Starlight Glimmer's progress, attempting against Twilight's wishes to make friends with Trixie of all ponies, and Trixie's progress as a sloppily reformed villain.
Look what your new friend made you. Wowza, wowza. Oh, are you trying to put me out of business with your fancy magic-a-thingy what's-a-cake?
You're not really giving her a second chance. I wonder what that says about how you feel about me.
Oh, now he'd be perfect.
I just hope I find a way to survive the moonshot manticore mouth dive without my new assistant.
Well, his writing sure hasn't gotten any tighter. The usual blocky bits of dialogue and overplayed character moments and general shortcuts of logic that feel like him trying to get something to make sense more or less are all over this thing. But it hasn't gotten any less enthusiastic either. Cycling through all of the friends one at a time is classic Friendship is Magic formula, but for how much fun each scenario seems to be having with itself here, I'd have to guess that that was in and of itself the very reason for using it. More of these than not were really funny, and they also showed some of that extra-mile creativity that I associate with the best seasons, like how Rainbow doesn't just fly away in this shot, but gives us a real-time perspective on how fast she is. Or how about some of these cameos? I think everyone was caught off guard by the appearance of Vinyl Scratch here, only it looks like the name the show's going with is DJ Pon 3. I might have preferred if they'd only had, say, Cranky at Twilight's dinner party, because then the emphasis would have been on how desperate a move that was from Twilight, instead of just seeing these three together, but that's small potatoes. I also like that Trixie's hero is Hoofdini. That's a nice touch, especially since Trixie could use a hero if she's gonna be good now. But what really surprised me here is how much interesting stuff Mr. Confalone manages to convey about the characters he's writing, some of it on an implicit level. This is the second story now about Starlight Glimmer's progress, and now we're seeing her moving past her initial shame. But is it all for the better? It's a nice sign that she's able to joke about her past, though it's kinda dumb that Twilight can't appreciate that, but seeing her in action, you almost wonder if she's getting over the shame a little too quickly. Seeing what she's willing to do and willing to say, she's not just impetuous. There's a lack of boundaries there, and maybe even a sense of entitlement that's a little discomforting. For now, it's harmless enough to still call getting her way on who she makes friends with a positive step, especially since she learned to forgive, but I have to wonder if there's still a chance we'll have a villainous Starlight Glimmer after all. Because Twilight wasn't entirely wrong here. When you have someone with a history of making bad decisions, and you're still in the middle of trying to help them with that, just assuming that they're going to be okay no matter what direction they go in isn't trust. It's blind faith. Speaking of which, that brings us to Trixie, who left on something of a jumbled note the last time we saw her. Did it really make sense for the character to want her enemy's forgiveness? Was that just the skin-deep happy ending? Her character's a bit in the dark coming into this. But what you get from her here just about fits. She's genuinely not proud of the line she crossed, but it still eats her that Twilight is able to claim the recognition Trixie's always craved. And she's just as interested in making herself feel better about that. And when she gets a bone thrown her way that she didn't expect in the form of Starlight Glimmer, she can't help but be petty about it. But, encouraged a bit by Starlight herself, hey, when you put two bitter people together, they're gonna be bitter together, this ends up pulling her back into the antagonist role. More than she wanted it to, in fact.
Come all! Come and see the pathetic and friendless Trixie's way to go, dum-dum. You really messed it up this time. Repentance tour.
Okay, I haven't exactly been a part of Trixie's fanbase, but I think I finally get it. She is virtually incapable of hiding how she feels. It's almost innocent how wrapped up in herself she is. She's incredibly petty and abrasive, but what eventually comes through is that every over-the-top line she says is honest emotion on display. And unlike Starlight, who does notice and care how she comes across, but whose truest motivations could potentially be scary, Trixie's motivations are almost sweet. She's like the permanent 5-year-old at heart. She wants to be adored and recognized, and she just assumes the way you get there is by showing off and glorifying everything you do. Even your apologies.
The great and powerful Trixie has come to perform a new stage show of grand illusion. The humble and penitent Trixie's Equestrian Apology Tour.
So yeah, this is a surprisingly expressive episode that lays down a lot of character direction for both of its leads, and for a minute there our infamous writer looks genuinely impressive. but inevitably the lack of refinement does catch up with it. It's less successful in Twilight's character depiction, really forcing a lot of her frantic, control freak moments just to make Starlight's resentment more understandable, when it's not just doing a lukewarm impression of her anal retentive, self-important side. She does have a couple nice moments, including how she takes the high road at the end to make everything right, but her part in this is more plot convenient than plot enhancing. And since she's an important player in this too, that on top of the other forced moments stop this from building to a great episode. Instead, it's an enjoyable outing with enough worthwhile moments for me to rank it firmly as a good one, but also as Nick Confaloni's best to date. It seems like this guy's just getting more and more into this as it goes. He's definitely got inspiration, though he could still use a little writer's discipline. Then again, if he had more, he might not be the same writer he is, so maybe he just needs to learn his own way. In the meantime, though, I'll see you all next week for a look at what happens when Rainbow Dash finally joins the Wonderbolts. Officially. Maybe. If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. If you didn't, I'll think about an apology tour, and if you'd like to watch another video in this series, click the link on the right. Otherwise, just check the description for more links, and I'll see you next time.